we're back for game 2 of Collective Effort versus Lost Chapter, and Lost Chapter back on the blue side again, running back just the Jarvan 4, but the rest of their composition, picking up some new elements, and something that we didn't really touch on so far, Naka, was the Deborah getting the Ashe, and I do really like this for a couple of reasons. First of all, Flan performed really well in Game 1 on the Ashe pick, in particular his Enchanted Crystal Arrows to start the team fights were really on point, so I like taking that away from the bot lane. But secondly, I do like that it's giving a little bit more agency to Deborah down here in the bot, because he did play really well on the Ezreal. He had the most damage for his team, but ultimately he just didn't have the DPS to be able to fully carry these team fights. And with the Ashe, although it's not generally considered a hyper carry on the level that something like an Aphelios is, it does have quite a bit of agency if you're able to sit back there in the backline to cut through some of the members of Collective Effort. In particular, looking at the Aatrox, which was just kind of impossible eventually in the game for a Deborah to be able to take down with the Ezreal. So just a little bit more ability to do so on the Ashe, and I'm excited to see that Lost Chapter was willing to trust him with this pick.
Yeah, and you can already see Shin Yuna pressuring the mid lane, positioned to just shove that in pretty much every single wave and deny Filiberto as much as he can.
Yeah, and Shin Yuna, he was, 4 bans coming out, or rather 3 bans coming out against Shin Yuna in this game. Quite a few, considering especially the fact that Naka, every single player on the roster of Lost Chapter was a CCS All-Star except Shin Yuna. I know a lot of people felt like he kind of got shorted in that regard, but it's interesting to see all those bans come down to him, and then I think that it's pretty respectable as a support main player to have something else like this Graves in their back pocket, but it is a little bit different of a playstyle from what we're used to seeing from Shin Yuna. We're used to these AP kind of champions, and then in addition, just to point out the summoner spells, Graves does end up picking up the Ignite. Now, we're so used to Shin Yuna playing for the team, having that teleport. Filiberto does take the teleport on the other side, so I really want to see Shin Yuna taking advantage of that aggressive summoner spell early on in this game.
Yeah, Shin Yuna looking to just bully Filiberto as much as possible here, and I honestly like the Ignite in that regard. Although, I did bring up that Graves does have a little bit of a mana issue, as the Q did get nerfed quite a bit, so not taking the TP really makes it hard for Shin Yuna to look for good resets without that teleport as a backup if Filiberto is able to shove out that wave. It is an Echo, so even if he is behind, he should be able to clear waves pretty well. But Shin Yuna is already pressuring the jungle here. Drip Irrigation goes in onto Gregorio, does get stunned up by Filiberto off the parallel convergence, flashes in to get the second Q onto Gregorio, and Drip Irrigation is just gonna be the sacrificial lamb there as the rest of the team's coming in now. Me Crit You now is gonna get stunned up. Oh no, he's not. Actually, he's gonna back up off of it, and Yama came super early here in the game to try and contest with the rest of his team. So Drip Irrigation is just gonna be the lone casualty of that. But First Blood did go over to Gregorio, the MVP here for the side of Lost Chapter. So let's see what he can do with that First Blood gold.
Yeah, and just a really close skirmish early on in the jungle for Collective Effort. Gregorio getting really aggressive with this Jarvan pick, which, as we mentioned, does have a lot of agency early on in the game against something like a Sejuani. So cool to see him taking advantage of that, and it was also great the way that we saw him playing with the Fog of War, going into the brush to make sure that there wasn't any vision for Drip Irrigation or Filiberto to be able to take him down. Such a close skirmish, but ultimately the early power of the Grave shows there too. I mean, the Ignite being dropped ends up being a big difference, but hold on.
Oh, Gregorio forces the flash out of Me Crit You now. Not sure how much that's going to matter, but that flash will be down for quite a while if Kevin Chen can continue the pressure in the top lane and potentially threaten a dive even if Gregorio decides to come back up towards this top side. Dragon's coming up in 5 seconds though, and Drip Irrigation, knowing that Gregorio is on the top side, could try and look for it early, but Flan and Cider Mill did decide to reset as well.
And so look at these trades from Kevin Chen.
Now. Yeah, Kevin
Yeah,
Chen
and
really wants to pressure this lane a lot more than last game for sure. Does have a champion that can do it a lot better than Shen this time around.
yeah, and
And
that's
you
what I was
can,
gonna say. Oh, go ahead.
yeah,
You're good.
and going back to that earlier fight, you can see how aggressive Shin Yuna's playing and how much prio in the lane Graves has over his opponent. He's always going to be on the first move towards any kind of uh, objective fight.
Yeah, he is able to push in, but as you mentioned, Naka, he is falling a little bit lower in CS, but after he crashes this wave into the turret, probably could look to reset if he really wants to do so. But he is going to opt to stay here instead, try to get a few more shots down into that turret. He does have Gregorio right behind him. Echo going to hit the level 6 mark right, or actually ahead of the Graves. So that is one thing, is that once the Echo has his ultimate available in the Chrono Break, it means that Graves is going to have a lot more trouble trying to get that one-on-one kill rather than before. So, but with Kevin Chen having the flash down against Me Crit You now, he's on a champion that really could try to take advantage of that in the 1v1. And speaking of level 6 advantages, Kevin Chen, he has hit the level 6 before Me Crit You now. He has the Death Realm available, but unfortunately with the wave crashing into the turret, he won't be able to take the 1v1 quite yet.
Looking at the CS lead from Kevin Chen, he's having a much better time this game around. Is going to have a wave crashing into Me Crit You now, but should have a lot of pressure here if he wants to either reset or continue pressuring Me Crit You now and try and stop as much of that CS as possible. And looks like he's doing so. Kevin Chen abusing this lane very well right now.
Yeah, he is. And another thing that I want to point out is the bottom lane, where Deprapine once again was left alone during that early skirmish by Yoma, who opted instead to go up into the jungle of a collective effort and provide some backup towards his team. But again, even with that, Deprapine still finding a pretty nice CS advantage for himself. 9 CS up above Flan, but now a little bit of a fight in the mid lane.
Gets engaged onto, and Filiberto doing a pretty significant amount of damage onto this Graves.
Yeah, and so Gregorio also helping out his team by picking up that Mountain Dragon early on. So Lost Chapter going to take the advantage with that right away. Similar to how they did in the first game, both of these teams put a lot of objective priority and focus. So we like to see that one. But that was I believe that dragon happened. Oh,
Gregorio trying to look for drip irrigation here. Does have the Cataclysm if he wants to use it, but drip irrigation can't just walk out of it with the Q, so not really sure why they went a little bit extra aggressive there trying to chase down the kill. But that does push drip irrigation back, and they now have the information now. And Shin Yuna, Graves just has such good wave clear that he's always going to have that priority in the lane.
So actually in this moment, as we're having hopefully a little bit of a lull here, we are going to actually go to a really quick break because we hear that we're having some spectator issues in the stream. So we're going to go for a really quick break right now.
Right as Filiberto dies. needed here is going to fall to the Cataclysm from Gregorio, and the flash was not quite enough to keep himself alive. That's another kill over to this Jarvan.
Yeah, and Filiberto, luckily, he does have the teleport available, but he is going to lose this entire wave due to his death timer, and now we see a lead coming through for this Graves, who does already have the Serrated Dirt completed, so this is going to be an advantage for Shin Yuna. So differently than the first game, where it was really both mid laners staying on par with each other throughout the game, Shin Yuna's going to have a little bit of an advantage.
Onto Shin Yuna, flashes in place, gets hit by the ultimate from Drip Irrigation, and that is going to be the kill over to the Sejuani. I'm pretty sure Filiberto wanted the kill, but unfortunately wasn't going to be able to get it. Me Crit You now, with the World Ender, gets dropped into the Death Realm, and Kevin Chen feels pretty confident in this fight. I don't think Aatrox has enough sustain, isn't going to be able to survive that. It's a 1v1 kill over to Kevin Chen.
But kills going over onto both sides, but this time it's Kevin Chen taking the advantage in the top lane. Last game we saw him getting solo killed by Me Crit You now. This time it's going to be Kevin Chen himself grabbing the solo kill. And I really like the way that Filiberto came in with that teleport to secure this kill with his jungler. Instead of just using his teleport onto that mid lane turret, he goes off onto that ward that was over on the side in the river using that home guard. And Shin Yuna just choking with the flash there. You know, he would have liked to be able to save that one to get away from the Sejuani, but not able to do so.
Oh, Shin Yuna looking for a more aggressive trade onto Filiberto. The parallel convergence did miss. Shin Yuna does have the collateral damage, isn't going to be able to finish off Filiberto. And Filiberto, good trigger discipline, not using the chrono break there, is going to have that up for the future. And Shin Yuna unfortunately cannot get the kill, but does have priority in the mid lane now, and without teleport, Filiberto is going to lose some CS here. Oh, actually decides to stay. He's in a little bit of a risky position, but does have Drip Irrigation on the side if Shin Yuna tries to go for anything too aggressive. And Gregorio is also matching the mid lane here. So both junglers going to find each other, going to leave. And Shin Yuna does get the push into the turret, so does have the priority for the time being. And Filiberto, looks like he's hovering, wants to try and stay and push up this next wave. I think it's a little bit greedy considering his HP bar.
Yeah, and I always have to highlight the way that Lost Chapter has this system of communication between their jungler and their mid laner. The second that Shin Yuna wants to go forward and make sure that Filiberto is too pressured to pick up the CS under the turret, he has Gregorio in his back pocket right there to help him. Drip Irrigation there as well, but we could see that Drip Irrigation was pretty pressured by Gregorio. He just felt like he had to run away when he saw that Jarvan 4. That is what you get by using the first pick to take this jungler that's generally regarded as the strongest pick.
Might get caught out here as he's gonna get stunned up and hit up by the Glacial Fissure. Forces the flash out. There's the arrow gonna land onto Flan! Temperpine flashes in to try and finish off the kill, but the Wild Growth is gonna keep Flan alive, but that's both summoners down. Meanwhile, on the top side, Kevin Chen taking a pretty hefty trade from Me Crit You now. But honestly, once Kevin Chen gets his passive up, should be able to trade back. World Ender getting popped preemptively again. And Kevin Chen wants to go for more while the World Ender's up. Is going to be dropped into the Death Realm. Stuck together in a 1v1 here onto the death. And Me Crit You now does get the pullback onto Kevin Chen. But Kevin Chen is to follow the Aatrox and does pick up another solo kill for himself. Dragon goes down over to Lost Chapter as they engage. As the fight ends, Drip Irrigation should be able to fall here. Gregorio flashes in onto 2 with the jumps into 2 with the Cataclysm and stops them in their tracks. Flan is going to fall, and Cidermill is going to be able to get out with the flash, but that's a lot going over to Lost Chapter.
It will be ultimately all said all around the map. It's a 3-for-1 for Lost Chapter. And Kevin Chen, again, has been the object of a lot of criticism on this Lost Chapter team. And he is using this game to prove himself. Picking up now 2 solo kills. That Q flash with the Mordekaiser taking down the Aatrox was absolutely a beautiful display of mechanics from him. And he's just displaying his dominance. He looks angry after that first game, and he's hungry to make a difference here. And then even though there's one kill being traded back by collective effort in the bot lane, I want to point out that again, the dragon goes over to Gregorio and over to Lost Chapter again. So this 2-dragon lead coming through similar to the first game, but the difference this time, Naka, is that it's a 2.5k gold lead that's been established by Lost Chapter. Certainly not something that collective effort couldn't possibly overcome, but it is pretty substantial given how close this series has been.
Oh, and Crystal Arrow's gonna land from afar onto Flan. The Glacial Fish is gonna knock him up as well, and the Wall Growth is here to keep him alive longer, and it's gonna help out to the same effect this time around. Mikryu now comes in with the teleport, chases them down back underneath the turret, but nothing else gonna come out of it. Deprapine looking to chase them back here, doesn't have backup, but does have a lot of damage already down onto Mikryu now and Flan, so should be fine here. World Ender gets popped again. Is going to be used to just escape, though. And Deprapine has been playing so well so far this series.
Yeah, he just absolutely knows when he can go forward and be aggressive on that Ashe, even when Mikryu now is still there, as Yoma looking to maybe interrupt the back, but not going to be able to do so because of how far Mikryu now is under the turret. But it looks like he actually canceled his recall on the Aatrox, so that's just such a big advantage for Kevin Chen, who is already ahead in this top lane. Chooses to hold the trigger, and not press it with that teleport, but hold on in the mid.
Oh, Filiberto might get dived here. Does have Chrono Break, though. Ignite's going to come out, get Filiberto even lower, and now he's under threat of a dive, but look at Drip Irrigation already on the side, stopping that from happening in its tracks.
Yeah,
and you talked earlier about the Ignite coming out from Shin Yuna, but hold on, Gregorio does get caught out a little bit here. Does have the stacks, but Drip Irrigation doesn't want to use the stun. So Gregorio is going to be able to get out of that. And yeah, so you were talking earlier about the Ignite coming out from Shin Yuna instead of the teleport, and we're seeing that being used very aggressively this game for sure.
Yeah, and the other thing that I didn't really even touch on with the Ignite earlier is Ignite is particularly does have
they're
some
already
strength.
Looking at Filiberto. Is going to get hit by the Cataclysm, does have the Chrono Break, is going to use it down towards the bottom side. Yama, can he get the Glacial Fissure on him? Is going to get the knock-up onto him! As well as the Q-Slow. Gregorio's going to pick up that kill, and now this J4 is 3-1-2 at 15 minutes.
He is very, very strong, and if you watch Lost Chapter, you know that they love to funnel those kills onto Gregorio. He is the leader of this team, this 15-year-old jungler. Absolutely so strong, certainly has a bright future ahead of him, and but Yoma's got out.
Might get caught in the river alone, is going to give the kill over to Flan, and despite how bad it looked early, Flan's doing perfectly fine this lane, barely down in CS, now has the second kill as well, and the Kraken Slayer is finished, so this Aphelios is going to be hitting so hard.
It is, and the one thing that I will criticize a little bit from Lost Chapter in that play is I would have liked to see Gregorio actually dropping that Rift Herald down onto the mid lane after they took down the Echo. Even if they didn't fully take down that turret, just being able to get enough damage onto it, because we know just how important picking up the mid lane turret is for a team to be able to secure vision into the enemy team's jungle. But with 27 seconds left before this dragon spawns, we do see collective effort grabbing quite a bit of priority here, not only with the vision, but also with their members.
Gregorio goes in onto Filiberto, but 3 members are here to stop him in his tracks. He gets a huge heal off the Gore Drinker, and is going to keep himself for quite a while as Yama comes in with the Unbreakable to block some damage, but Drip Irrigation does pick up the kill onto Gregorio, and Deprapine's on the side here, picking up a trade kill, but unfortunately Yama does fall at the end of that, and ends up being a 2-for-1. And that is definitely the advantage of collective effort. They're trying to claw their way back into this game for sure.
Yeah, they are, and it's a nice kill, and it's a little bit of over-aggression once again from Gregorio. We did see this from him last game, flag and dragging in a little bit early, with so many of the members of Collective Effort just waiting in the wings there in the jungle to come into this mid lane. Not what I would have expected him to do. With the dragon having spawned, though, both teams were forced to recall after that big fight. Filiberto is going to use his teleport to get towards the dragon. We'll see if Collective Effort decide to start start it up for themselves right away. But Gregorio, he is right. He's on his way there. He is going to be there certainly in time, and I like the fact that he dropped this Rift Herald into the mid lane. It means that for collective effort, they need to choose, do they want to defend their turret, or do they want to go for this dragon?
And this is going to be sole point if Lost Chapter does end up getting that, so it's crucial they fight for this dragon. The ultimate comes out from Sejuani very early in the fight, and there's the parallel convergence. Is going to get a lot of zoning control in the fight. Filiberto is going to fall without the Chrono Break coming out, though. And look at Shin Yuna still alive on this Graves. Already has the Eclipse for that Omni Vamp. Deprime chasing him down even further. There's the shield bow going to be popped. And that's going to give them the opening they need to go for this dragon. That's sole point now for the side of Lost Chapter.
At Lost Chapter, they get just about everything they want there. They win the fight. They get the dragon. They pick up the mid lane turret from that drop of the Rift Herald by Gregorio. And before, I criticized him not dropping it earlier, but this was the perfect moment to do it, splitting the focus of collective effort, forcing them to make a choice, and neither choice is a good one. And you highlighted Shin Yuna on the Graves being able to continue to drop that DPS on this champion, stay alive for a really long time, but my MVP once again, playing consistently from game 1 to game 2 is Deprime on the Ashe. No one is able to get to him in the backline. Filiberto expending his energy to try to take down this Jarvan and the Graves, who are positioned a little bit further forward, never able to get back onto the Ashe. And I said it at the beginning of the game, now Deprime has a champion that can put out that consistent DPS at a level that Ezreal is not really able to do until much later in the game. When he's able to do it, he's able to do so much damage. He's certainly online now.
Yeah, in Deprime, we normally see Ashe going for the shield bow into Wit's End build, but we are always seeing Deprime go for the Rage Blade first, so that is going to up his damage quite a bit, giving him a very interesting alternative in the itemization. So we'll see what he goes for next. I'm wondering if he's going to just keep stacking on the on-hit damage here, though.
Yeah, and the Rageblade Ashe is something that we've kind of seen as an evolution of this pick. As we've gotten later into the season, Ashe also naturally a champion that builds this Immortal Shield Bow, which is something that I'm a really big fan of the Immortal Shield Bow in a meta in which there's so many champions that are built to dive onto AD carry
Gregorio
champions.
And Yama setting up a trap on the side, though, coming up from behind with the Glacial Fissure, and Flan falls immediately. Kill does go over to the Braum, but that's an AD carry down for quite a while. As they get pressure on the top side here, they might look to try and dive me crit you now on the top side. Or they're just going to go for the turret with 4 members strong on the top side. Shin Yuna does cancel the recall out of Filiberto, so they won't have Echo here to defend this top push. And now Gregorio goes in with a knockup onto me crit you now, forces up the World Ender very early on. Drip Irrigation might get stunned up, but no, Yama is going to back up, and that's going to be the turret going down over to Lost Chapter. They have so much priority on this top side. Meanwhile, on the bottom side, Shin Yuna and Filiberto duking it out. And look at the damage coming out from that Graves. Already got Filiberto down to about 1/3 HP. Does have the Chrono Break if he needs it. But Shin Yuna is so comfortable in that skirmish.
Yeah, and there's a reason that the Graves is this flavor of the month pick, because look at the damage, like you said, that Shin Yuna is able to output. Generally, we would think of the Echo as the champion that has this upfront burst assassination sort of potential, but instead it's Shin Yuna on the Graves, forcing Filiberto to actually recall, while Shin Yuna can continue to just sit in this bottom lane wave and just push it in. So that's creating a huge advantage for Lost Chapter in the side lane, whereas last game, we saw the Rise and the Victor trading extremely evenly. So we got to give it to Shin Yuna, this transplant into the mid lane. You can't find anybody to do it. Well, he's your player here. He's gonna just be going toe-to-toe with this mid laner who we consider to be by far the best in the CCS, and something that's been a little bit more of a quiet difference this game for me too after the solo kills occurred is Kevin Chen just constantly pushing me crit you now in towards that top lane turret. In the last game, me crit you now was actually a huge factor in the team fights, being able to group up with his squad, and a big reason that is when you're running something like a Shen into the Aatrox, sure, it can deal with it okay in the lane phase, but once the lane phase ends, Shen really doesn't develop very much split push pressure, whereas this Mordekaiser certainly does.
Yeah, and he's almost up 60 CS at this point on over me crit you now, and Aatrox without items is definitely not very effective at all. We're not going to be seeing him show a big presence in these fights, not going to be able to sustain as much as you would want Aatrox to be doing, being stuck here on one item. And speaking of the itemization, I love the itemization coming out from Shin Yuna on this Graves, going for the Lord Dominic's Regard second. And with that in mind, it's just going to be so hard for them to itemize against them. You can't really build armor, can't build HP either against this. It's just going to be chunking you out like a truck, basically, in these later stages of the game, whether it's a team fight or a side lane skirmish. Dragon's coming up in 5 seconds now, and you can already see collective effort trying to set up a trap, set up the vision already, but you can see Yauma and Gregorio on the other side as well. This is what they were doing in that top side, sitting in a bush together with the vision control they do have, just try and see if they can flank anyone. And now with the sweepers, they are going to spot out all the members of collective effort trying to sit on the bottom side here as the dragon spawns, and both teams are going in towards the river to try and fight here. Gregorio already goes in with the EQ, gets the Cataclysm onto Flan, forces the flash early, and look at that collateral damage, chunking out everyone so quickly. Kevin Chen on the backside, zoning out the bot lane from collective effort as the rest of the team falls. And that's going to be 3 kills over to the side of Lost Chapter. Ooh. Off the snipe on the Enchanted Crystal Arrow, and that's going to be Dragon. That's going to be Soul going over to Lost Chapter and 4 kills. And they should be.
I'd like to see Lost
as well. There's only 20. There's 20 seconds left on most of the members of collective effort. They should be able to take this Baron before anyone can contest.
Yeah, exactly what I was going to say, Naka. I would love to see Lost Chapter just run straight over into this Baron, almost reminiscent of what we saw in Game 1 from Collective Effort. What hopefully for Lost Chapter, they don't fall into the same trap that Collective Effort did last game, which was that the second that Lost Chapter was up, they were able to go into this Baron pit and pick up those 4 kills. But this time, there's no rise for Collective Effort, there's no Realm Warp, and it looks like it's just Baron for Lost Chapter.
Oh, Kevin Chen might get caught out, though. Gets stunned up, doesn't have flash or anything to get out. Does have the Death Roam if he wants to try and 1v1 someone before falling down. And that's not going to be able to happen. Shutdown goes over to Flan, which is definitely who you don't want to give that shutdown over to at all. Unfortunate that Kevin Chen was caught out there, staying a little bit too long after the Baron went down. But now, with Baron buff, Lost Chapter should be able to play the map pretty well here. 30 seconds of lost time, unfortunately, because Kevin Chen is down, is a little bit unfortunate, but they should have a lot of time to work with on this Baron buff, splitting in the side lanes with the Graves and the Mordekaiser in the 1-3-1, unless they get caught out like they are right now. Deprapine gets stunned up by Drip Irrigation. They're chasing him down even further. Shieldbow's going to come out as well as the Polymorph is going to stop Deprapine from doing anything, and Yama's going to fall as well. That's 2 members down for the side of Lost Chapter. 2 Barons gone very early on.
And this is just sloppy play from Lost Chapter. You know, why are they sticking around in these lanes when they don't have enough vision to justify it? Wait for Gregorio at the very least to be here would kind of be my call before you're going to be going forward. And just before that fight broke out, I was going to point out how there was a 1,000 gold bounty, 700 gold, 1,000 gold total for the kill bounty on Deprapine on the Ashe. And I was also going to say that as long as the Ashe is able to stay alive throughout these fights, there's absolutely no way that Collective Effort will be able to take the team fight. Well, if Ashe goes that far forward, obviously that's not going to be the same story. So
Shin Yuna might get caught out here, or Kevin Chen, as he's stuck in the middle of all the members. But look at that huge knock-up into the Cataclysm coming out from Gregorio, followed up with the damage coming out from Shin Yuna. That's 3 kills immediately picked up on this Graves. A 4th one's going to come out as well onto Cider Mill, and that's 4 members down again for the side of Collective Effort. Lost Chapter still has the Baron. They're going to be able to push out this even more. 30 seconds left on the members of the Collective Effort. Is Lost Chapter going to try and go for anything other than this inhibitor? They still have 15 seconds left before a Drip Irrigation spawns.
Yeah, and look at, they're being so smart by tanking the turret with their champions to be able to keep the Barons alive, get the debuff onto the turret, and Shin Yuna, he saw last game, Philly Bearto. Yeah, a little bit greedy here.
No way, this is actually game. Drip Irrigation is gonna fall, and as the rest of the members spawn, the Nexus is open. It's down to half HP, down to less than half. 2 members down for the side of Collective Effort again, and with that, that's gonna be game 2 over to Lost Chapter 1-1.
Wow, and Filiberto got that quadra kill in game 1. Shin Yuna was saying, anything you can do, I can do better. Gets a quadra kill for himself, picking up this Graves pick and just doing a ton of damage in that game. And just as a very small note, I want to call out an absolutely fantastic Braum ultimate in that last team fight from Yoma, with Filiberto eing forward on the Echo and getting knocked up before to interrupt that dash from the mid lane champion. And I think it's really, really powerful for Shin Yuna and this Lost Chapter team as a whole to be able to show the fact that they can counter this Echo pick that did come out from Filiberto. As we mentioned in the Champion Select, this is his signature pick, and if you're able to shut down the MVP of the league on the champion he likes best, the sky is your limit.
Yeah, and honestly, that game was so much more decisive than the last one. I honestly didn't expect it to end so early on. All Lost Chapter needed was 2 4-for-0 fights, and they just closed out the game off of that. You talked about the teamwork that was coming out from this team, and we definitely saw that there in their decisive movement in the game.
Yeah, and just taking a look at the damage charts here, the damage coming out from the Graves overall was just absolutely huge. You know, Kevin Chen and the Mordecais are also dealing quite a bit of damage. We know that with these top laners, these melee champions that are constantly duking it out, a lot of that does end up being trade damage. But in the team fights, especially that last one, Shin Yuna using that collateral damage to chunk out so many members. Actually, both of the last 2 team fights, we saw this Graves just being so important. 7-1 and 11 at the end for Shin Yuna, and the mid laner for Lost Chapter shows us that they are not to be messed with. They are here to play, and with the series being 1-1, we got a great one on our hands. I'm rolling up my sleeves because we got at least 2 more games to go. We're going to take a little bit of a break. Whew, I know I need to drink some water, so you might, go away for a second, grab a snack and a drink, and come right back, because we're going to have more CCS League of Legends coming right at you in just a few minutes. again, everybody. We are back for the draft of Game 3 for Collective Effort against Lost Chapter. And as we jump into the bans, it's interesting that Collective Effort opts to go for the blue side this time. We'll see what they try to get some priority on. I would expect some priority to go over for the jungle from Collective Effort, especially with this Lee Sin banned out. I think they're kind of daring Lost Chapter to choose, kind of pick their poison. Do they want to ban the Jarvan? Do they want to ban the Trundle? I would expect actually for them to leave both of these picks up so that they could trade them back and forth, but they will actually end up having the Trundle be banned out, and I totally forgot about Xin Zhao. So Xin Zhao, that's the champion we've seen the most power from out of Drip Irrigation, the jungler for Collective Effort. So now with Lost Chapter having the next pick, you have to imagine that they're going to first round the Jarvan here.
Yeah, honestly, Jarvan would be the best option here, just because they've already played it 2 times so far. It's just going to be such a comfortable pick, and Gregoria's going to be so warmed up on it, so I definitely expect to see that here. But they're going to go with the Ashe Braum first, just to secure that ball lane for themselves. Did do well for them last game, so not too surprised to see that coming out here already in Collective Effort. I'd imagine they'll probably just try and match the bottom lane here, but we did see that they're willing to pick their comfort solo lanes early on. So we'll see if that happens again this time around. The Aatrox didn't do that well that last game, and the Echo, of course, not performing that well either. So I'd imagine that they're more likely to just match the bottom lane here with this draft. And yeah, they are going to pick up the Soraka. Could be flexing to some solo lanes as well if we see anything spicy, but I'd imagine it'll probably just be in the bottom lane. See what it's going to get it matched with. It could be an Ezreal, maybe, just a safer pick. Maybe maybe another scaling AD carry, but they're going to pick up the Jinx to match with the Soraka there. It's a very hard lane to play against because there's a lot of zone control coming up from the Flame Chompers and the Silence from the Soraka, so they should match up pretty well into the Ashe Braum in that regard.
Yeah, and so Soraka and Jinx is a duo that we saw from Collective Effort in their matchup on Monday against Predictive Gaming Odin. They played it to a really strong effect, also actually pairing this team composition along with the Shen as well. I would really like to see Shen banned out by Lost Chapter. First, they do ban out the Aatrox. Obviously, this is the best champion for me crit you now, but that one going to be taken away again. And interestingly enough, the Olaf picked up from Lost Chapter. They opt not to take the Jarvan. They're going in a different direction with this Olaf pick. I think both Olaf and Jarvan actually do fare extremely well into this Jinx in particular. Olaf having a little bit more agency on for himself to be able to run down the Jinx and just take her down, being able to shrug off the CC that the Soraka can often bring to the table. And with this Twisted Fate ban again by Collective Effort, if you're listening, anyone from Collective Effort, I'm going to give you a little bit of a tip and tell you that I just think that this is a wasted ban against Shin Yuna. They showed that they've already talked about how this isn't really a champion that they commonly play. So a little bit curious to see that one, but Dr. Mundo being picked up for Kevin Chen, and he has been an absolute powerhouse on this Dr. Mundo champion throughout the season. It's something that I really like. I think it's something that's a little bit underrated. We haven't really seen other teams in the CCS pick it up, but Kevin Chen is certainly happy to blind pick that one. And with the Shen being paired again for Collective Effort, I believe this is just a direct run back of a composition that Collective Effort played on Monday. However, I know that in that composition, the final pick was the Corki to make it that 280 carry composition, but instead they're going to opt for the Victor, which provides kind of a similar consistent damage source from the mid lane.
Oh, I really like this composition from Collective Effort. There's so much zone control they have here. With Victor, obviously, probably the most effective zone control they have, but they have a lot of tools in the other champions as well to really just take control of the objective fights, the area that they're going to be fighting in around those objectives in the river, and they have a perfect team composition for that. The only issue is that I see a lack of really strong engage if they want to try and go for that, so they're going to really have to get that priority first and force Lost Chapter to walk into them.
Yeah, and I do agree with you that there's not very much engaged from collective effort, but what we saw from them on Monday against PGO with this team comp is they were really happy to play this reactive style, wait for the enemy team to jump on into them, and then save that stand united to be able to drop it on the Jinx, on the Soraka, keep these picks alive so that the Soraka Cider Mill is able to just continue pumping out this healing for the carries, and this time being the Victor and the Jinx. And I really agree. I think collective effort has put together a really strong team composition in this one, but I want to talk about the mid lane counter pick that Lost Chapter was able to pick. Once again, the Cinder being banned out, in my opinion, by far the strongest thing that Shin Yuna is able to play. Instead, he's going to opt for the Zoe, or they're going to opt for the Zoe. Not something that I've seen them play very often in this league, if at all. So excited to see what Shin Yuna is able to do on this pick. In my opinion, Zoe is definitely a champion that you either know how to play it or you don't. It's kind of a difficult one to play just because of the high skill shot intensity of the character. So we'll have to see if Shin Yuna is up to the task of playing that one, but with a mid lane of their caliber, I certainly expect that if they're picking it up in this game, they know what they're doing. And it makes sense that they couldn't pick up the Graves this time just because of the range disadvantage that they would have against the Victor. We already saw that with the Rise pick into it. It would have been even more accelerated with the Graves.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Zoe fits right into Shin Yuna's champ pool. Seeing how well he performed on the Rise, on the Graves, I really think that Zoe is going to fit just fine alongside those champions. They're not really similar in playstyle in particular, but the mechanical ability you need for Rise and the laning and macro ability you need from to play Graves, Zoe is kind of a good mix of those. So we'll see if Shin Yuna is able to play Zoe to effect. But I imagine it's going to be pretty smooth sailing for Shin Yuna, especially into a Victor, which Zoe does pretty well into.
Yeah, so as we go into this game, I really do like, overall, I gotta say that, you know, there's very strong elements in the Lost Chapter team composition, but overall, the collective effort one just gels in my mind quite a bit better. Maybe that's because I just saw them play this exact same team composition, basically with just a mid laner swapped out on Monday, but I like the front-to-back team fighting that they're able to provide, with Flan just having a lot of ability to sit on the back line and just continue raining out those rockets from the Jinx. And you already mentioned the zone control that this team comp brings out. I mean, imagine how much space that they can eliminate from Lost Chapter between the gravity field, between the chompers from Jinx, between the Equinox from Soraka. I mean, when you lay all three of those down with some level of coordination, it can basically close off an entire lane from Lost Chapter to be able to find any engage. The one thing that I do think, the one place where that fails for me is with the Olaf. Obviously, Gregorio is going to have this champion with the Ragnarok ultimate that can shrug off a lot of the CC, so I wouldn't rather have my carry on anything else if I'm Lost Chapter in this game, to be able to just run down the Victor as well as the Jinx, who are in fact these immobile champions.
Yeah, but here's the main issue with the Olaf, right? I really do like the pick overall, just because it does enable Olaf to just run through all the zone control that we were talking about on the side of collective effort and get into the back line. But look at the range they have, right? They have Jinx, they have Victor, and even Soraka. It's just so hard for Olaf to get in without taking a good chunk of HP off of his HP bar before he can even get to them. So that's part of why I like collective effort's composition so much. There's a lot of zone control, but there's also a lot of range, which makes it very annoying for Lost Chapter to actually try and get in. That's why I'm saying the priority is so important for collective effort. They need to be able to get to these objectives first so that they can force Lost Chapter to walk into them, so that they can dish out all that damage they need to before anyone can even touch their carries.
Well, we will just have to see which of these team compositions fares better. We had collective effort winning game 1, Lost Chapter pretty effortlessly taking down game 2, so it's a 1-1 series. We're going to take a short spectator delay break, but when we come back, game 3 of the CCS finals. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a minute.